Every so often, you might want to look through a new prism. The world turns on innovation and invention. Whether it was Thomas Edison's light bulb or Marconi's radio, our culture, the way we live, and sometimes our very health is drastically altered by each new mousetrap. This year, the top prize for the National Collegiate Inventors Competition went to a group of young scientists at Johns Hopkins. To learn more about the Presto Patch and why 8 is enough, we are joined by some of America's brightest undergraduate minds. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Can you tell me, Sandhya, what is the problem you were trying to resolve?
Sure. So currently, as most people have probably seen on TV, when someone goes into cardiac arrest, or basically their heart goes into a weird rhythm, they get defibrillated, which means that they get this giant shock applied to them. And usually on TV, this is done using these two giant paddles, except in real life, it's not done like that anymore. It's done with these adhesive electrodes. They're kind of like giant stickers. And so the problem is that right now, if any shock were to fail, which they do about 1/5 of the time, the doctor doesn't really have much they can do to try to make the next one any better. And you can imagine that in the case of a sudden cardiac arrest, the patient's life is literally dependent on whether you can get these shocks to work. So right now, the doctor will literally just make the energy higher of these shocks, and that's not exactly the best way to go about it. Because you don't want to keep shocking the heart with higher and higher energy. And there's actually other alternatives out there. They just can't do them right now. So they should be able to do things like move the patches and push down on the patches in order to reduce something called impedance, which is like the resistance to the shock. And both of those are scientifically proven ideas, but the doctor can't do them right now. And so our device solves those problems by giving the doctor the ability to do both of those things.
So, Peter Malamus, is the problem then the precision of where the shock is being delivered or the extent of energy being delivered?
It's actually both. In terms of location, clinically there's two common positions. There's front and back and front and side. And so one part of our design, called the Presto Patch, which is a tri-patch system, it calibrates and switches the shocking vector between these two different positions. And currently that's not one of the options given to clinicians. And then secondly, it's addressing the energy issue. Our second part of our system is the Presto Push, and that involves decreasing the transthoracic impedance, which currently there's no standardized way of doing that for clinicians. And so providing this way, it encourages clinicians to use this option and makes it standardized.
And back to Piyush Padar, where did this inspiration come from? And are you hoping for this device to be used mainly in clinical and hospital conditions or also in the field by paramedics?
So the project started through the Johns Hopkins Design Team Program, the Center of Bioengineering, Innovation, and Design. And through them, we got in touch with Dr. Todd Cohen, who's our sponsor. He's a practicing electrophysiologist and an inventor himself. And he came to us with the initial problem statement that clinicians would like a way to switch the shock vector, but they don't really have a way to do so right now. And discussing with them, we thought this was a really great project for us, and we took it forward. And through our clinical experiences, we saw that there's also an additional problem, which was the impedance portion of the project that we mentioned earlier. So that's how the inspiration came from. And in terms of the scope of the project, initially we were thinking primarily in hospital settings, but we've designed it in such a way that's simple enough and you can apply it quickly enough that we do think it's applicable for emergency situations as well.
Because you would imagine that in terms of a cardiac arrest, speed is of the essence. And so if you have a device which will allow for a more successful shock of the heart, that it would be actually really important to have this kind of thing in the field. So you do think that it would be successful in that situation as well?
Definitely. That's one of the challenges we had to overcome, make a device that could fit within such a tight time constraint. We did testing that shows that we can apply this device and apply the reduced impedance and switch the shock vectors all within 15 seconds, which is well under what we were aiming for.
Sandhya Sabarim, could you tell me how you guys tested the device? How did you make sure that it does what you hoped it would do?
So we did different kinds of testing. So for Some of it we did like bench testing, so we like took the switch to an actual defibrillator and ran an actual defibrillator shock through it and saw that it held up. That was some of our testing. Some of our testing to test like how fast it would be and things like that, using just the team members, we made like a mock emergency situation. And I'm a trained emergency responder, so like I tried actually pretending to use this device and seeing how quickly I could do it. So we did like testing as far as like bench testing and testing as far as like usability.
Sandhya, you were saying that you began to do some human trials, and did you get permissions? How did you conduct these experiments?
So no, we haven't actually administered a shock to any human person with our device. What we've been testing a lot is, so the actual shock part of it is not changing from the current standard of care. So there's really like no science, like beyond the actual science behind it, we're not changing anything. A lot of what we're changing has to do with like the usability. So the testing that we did a lot of testing just amongst ourselves to see how quick and easy it was to use. And we just got IRB approved to test with like actual like residents or like medical students to test how quickly and intuitively it can be used. But we haven't actually put a shock through anyone yet.
And Peter, want to ask you about the importance of a prize like this. What does this mean when you apply to graduate school, when you apply for a job? How important?
This is a tremendous project and experience. Currently applying to medical school. This is definitely a project which kind of opens my endeavors into the medical field. And it surely, it helps me see a different aspect of medicine, which I look forward to contributing to down the road through my biomedical engineering background and this project where we've collaborated with clinicians, sponsors, engineering department. Just the whole collective process and working in a team environment is definitely a valuable experience and skills gained that will be priceless in the future.
And just the personal gain that we experienced, the competition itself is one of the most prestigious in the nation. There's schools like MIT, Harvard, Rice University, Stanford. They're all competing there, and it was held at the National U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And our judges were some of the best inventors in the world, inventors of the digital camera, the laser scanner, the laser printer, the fiber optics, the internal defibrillator.
So it is an exciting event for you guys.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, looking at an invention which may just shock the world and was the winner of the National Collegiate Inventors Competition this year. I'm speaking to several scientists from Johns Hopkins University, undergraduates. And for the Voice of Russia, I'm Andrew Hiller. Thank all of you for your work and for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.